Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of Partnerships in SaaS. I'm your host, Barrett King, and today I have Gary, CEO of Vouch, and actually one of my favorite Australians joining the show. Hey man, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. It's great to be here. I want to ask how many Australians have been on the show or are in your world, but if I'm the favorite, I might just take it.
Yeah, it's a good question. So you're the first Australian on the show. I have other friends from the region I would offer, but I got to be clear. It's not, so for me, it's 3:10 p.m. It is not 7 a.m. for you, 6 a.m. for you. You're in New York right now. Is that right?
I'm in New York right now. Yeah, I'm East Coast. It's a very amenable time zone. So this is much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. I mean, look, for me, I think part of why I wanted to have you join the show and part of why I wanted to have this conversation with you is we've known each other for a little while and we've talked about video as a medium for communication. So actually, let's kind of level set for the listeners. Let's help them understand, what is Vouch? What do you do?
Yeah. Well, Vouch it's an async video platform. So we help mostly B2B companies go out, capture video content from other people or record and use that content. So kind of just anything that's not live like this, we can help sort of capture, share. We have a player, we have editing capabilities. Really, it's sort of how do you think about scaling async video within an organization? One of the things that we connected on and one of the wedges that we started with in the market was voice of the customer, voice of partner. Like how do you bring those external sort of really important voices and narratives through in video? And that's a really important use case for us amongst others. So that's kind of how we connected as well.
Yeah, actually, that's good. Let's talk about that because I want to understand, in our past conversations, and I hear it from other partner leaders as well, there's this call it emerging trend, if you will. I can't imagine that it's not well known at this point, but obviously video as a means of communication has been around for a while. I think what's interesting is the point you just made around capturing the voice of the partner, of the customer. And so, when I think about your constituents, so first off, are you using, do you have any kind of a reselling channel? Or are you yourself using partners? How do you think about that, for Vouch itself?
Yeah. So our go-to-market, predominantly we've been live for around just over 12 months, right? It's pretty early for us. So our go-to-market is pretty grounded in product-led growth. We have a really, really valuable freemium product. We have a self-serve path. And then we have we've just started to do a bit of sales assist. So, my background was previously at Canva where I saw sort of that PLG engine work really well. So from a partner perspective, we haven't dipped into going to market with a partner channel yet. But I guess the way that we think about it is because we bring in and aggregate all this video content for people, they want to push it into ecosystems or spaces that they live every day. And so that might be a HubSpot, it might be Salesforce, it might be, a partner network, it might be HighSpot, it might be Slack, whatever it might be. So we think about partnerships, in a broader integration sense. How do we get content into spaces for people? And then how do we partner with those tools or those SaaS companies to leverage it?
That's great. And so when you're talking about the integrations part of it and you're talking about bringing together, sort of like these different conversations that are happening across, we'll stick to partners, so across an ecosystem, is there any kind of guidance or feedback that you would give? So here's what I'm picturing, right? I'm a partner leader in an organization right now. The market itself is busy, right? People are talking about macro, micro, different trends. There's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of noise, but I know that my partners are valuable. And I know I've talked to a lot of my other guests about this, that there's this shift happening away from partners as just a lead gen source or just a servicing sort of solutions partner methodology toward this idea of better together stories, towards this idea of when we bring our two businesses together, our customer gets more value. So are you seeing trends or anything you can share with the audience around how video is more closely integrating into partnerships as a way to that point we've started to make here of capturing a voice and then elevating that voice within the ecosystem, for the customer?
Totally. Yeah. We think about storytelling a lot, right? And the partner ecosystem, the partner network better together. That's very similar to a customer interaction. Like you both sort of have a relationship. You need each other to drive business outcomes forward. So, when we think about how important customer testimonials or customer videos are, I reckon that applies exactly the same to partners. If you're building your business around a partner ecosystem and vice versa, it's a really strong transactional piece of relationship. I would be going out and sort of saying, hey, how do we bring their voice through on video? How do we tell interesting stories? Is it short form? How do we communicate about the narrative that we're building together through video? We would definitely encourage that. And I think even then just communication between your teams, there needs to be knowledge sharing that happens at a partner level. Like they need to understand, hey, how do I sell this thing? What does enablement look like? What's training and education? I think video is really interesting in that space. So I think there's a few different parts, whether it's sort of storytelling and content or the more functional training and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Let's double click on this idea of storytelling too, because I think it's important to highlight Actually, I'm just curious for myself too, certainly for the audience, but for myself, do you see long form or short form video being more well received right now? I'm going to speculate it's short form, but I'm curious.
Yeah, we're super bullish on short form. So I think my background before sales was obviously as a marketer. Video, there's a spectrum, right? You can have super long form, really highly produced, really, really highly important pieces of content that probably are more expensive to create, but they tell a different narrative. I think from a storytelling, attention span, current ways that people are consuming content on the internet, they're scrolling through things at rapid speed, right? Like it's sort of that very much that TikTok style, like let me see what's next type vibe. Short form, really authentic, a person talking to camera, telling interesting stories. We're finding that to be for sure the most effective at the moment. And that's obviously biased towards the way that we've structured Vouch, but we structured it that way because that was the way the trends were heading. So it's kind of something that I'm super bullish on. Most of the content that does particularly well, what we see across our customer base is literally snippets, like 2 seconds, 3 seconds of people telling a story, and then it just jumps between others and it's dynamic. And I think that type of content is performing really well at the moment.
So how do I get started then? So if I'm listening to you and I'm thinking to myself, like, as I said earlier, all right, I'm a partner leader. I know that the voice of my ecosystem is really important and impactful right now. And, I'm thinking about kind of kicking off Vouch or otherwise. When I think about video, I consider you an expert in video, certainly short form, like you shared. How do I do that? I mean, do I just go and just send an email to every partner I have and say like, hey, record a video why you like us? What are some of the kind of good bits of advice you'd give somebody to start from scratch?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question because tactically there's a range of ways you could do it, right? Like you could build it into workflows. Like if you have a partner meeting or something really positive that happens, whether it's a great experience or they share something via text, like you can just send a Vouch link and say, hey, we'd love to capture that really quickly on video. It saves you, going there with a camera crew or asking to jump on something synchronous and coordinating that. So built into motions is really important. So I wouldn't recommend going out and blasting 100 partners and say, we're recording a video, we want you to do it right now. There's no context. I think there needs to be contextual reasons why you're sending, a Vouch link out to go and get video back. But at the same time, I think every interaction that you have with a partner is an opportunity to capture something valuable. So if you should perform training, right? Like your team, you maybe train their AEs and they're really pumped up and they're ready to go sell this thing. Like maybe you go and just sort of create a quick video yourself for the A's and say, hey guys, awesome training session. Here's some of the things we recapped, and you send that as an evergreen piece of content so it lives on forever. So there's kind of push and pull with video that I think both are important, but I think context matters. And one of the things, this is obviously a plug for Vouch, but we provide a lot of context into that request, I suppose. So, if I want to hear from you, I'm going to send you a link in Vouch. It's going to have a video of me telling you what I want to hear, why I'm sending you this link. There's context built into it. You're not just getting this kind of random survey type link that you have no context around. So that's how I would think about it.
Yeah. So I'm hearing context. Obviously, I'm hearing, being intentional about the story that you're telling, picking the right people. One of the questions I ask all guests is, what are you personally most passionate about, certainly in your role and otherwise? And your commentary was interesting. You talked about scaling customer stories, sales, marketing teams, partner teams. That storyline obviously is really important. So what I'm hearing you say is to be intentional about developing the storyline, certainly with the goal of capturing the voice of your audience, in this case, obviously your partner community, but being directive around the framework of what the narrative is that you're looking to drive towards.
Yeah, I think you have to be realistic, right? I think sending a random link to someone and asking them to record an unstructured video, the results are going to be very varied. And so we've built that structure in. I think, in terms of that particular passion point for me, like whether it's in sales careers or marketing careers, I think like highlighting the right stories and getting to the truth, I guess, and the authentic piece of content production is important rather than sort of super scripted and things that just don't feel quite right or authentic. So it's really important to me. So I think for us, like it's about short form, but it's also about giving that person enough context and direction so that they don't feel confused around what you need back from them and you sort of waste everyone's time.